रेडी? कुछ वर्ड लिखेंगे. Started. Has also been, has also to be, it has also been, have also been, had also been, is also, there is also, are also, should also, was also, were also, they have also, we are also, in addition to this, much more important than, most important things, most important matters, from the point of view of the immediate attention, prompt attention, more attention, my attention, your attention, I draw the attention of the, I would like to draw the attention of the, to draw the attention of the, drawing the attention of the, in many ways, at the time of the, at a time, at time, at that time, could not, I could not, we have had, by and large, to an extent, to the extent, to some extent, to a certain extent, to a great extent, to a very great extent, to such an extent, to a large extent, to that extent, to this extent, to the extent possible. I do not mean to say we did not have, it is bound to be, there is no provision, there should have been, cooperative societies, cooperative banks had said that, non-officials, large numbers, in this measure, to look into the matter. For example, in the first instance, in the first place, rural areas, urban areas, with a view to, apart from this, what has been done, differences of opinion, which has been all over the country, all over the world, by my honorable friend, honorable mover, they might be able to, in connection with the, I will not be, I would be, should be taken, should not be taken, will be taken, will have to be taken, was taken, were taken, in the year, during the year, it may have been, I am very sorry, I am very happy, on behalf of the, in this behalf, advisory board, railway board, civil services, government service, government servants, minority community, in other words, in view of the anti-social Indo-Pakistan, to consider the come to an end, came to an end, socio-economic, social and economic, economic and social, United States of America, United States, US, USA, United Kingdom, if I may say so, on the whole, as a whole, as well, in the countryside, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, scheduled castes and tribes, backward classes, per capita, national income, as quickly as possible, lay down, lays down, laid down, more or less. Few days ago, that would be in the world, in this world, it is obvious that it appears that is likely to be, for my part, it is true that in some other way, if possible, it is possible that it is quite possible, it is not possible, it will be possible, it will not be possible, it would be possible, it would not be possible, it may be possible, it may not be possible, it has been possible, as far as possible, so far as possible, it is possible, to the extent possible, great importance, until and unless and until. ये जो आपको डिक्टेट किया जा रहा है, ये प्रैक्टिस सेट नंबर 2 है केसी रिव्यू का. ये कुछ फ्रेजोग्राफी है और सेट आपके पास में ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल है. उसी तरीके से सामने आपको प्रैक्टिस करनी है और पीछे इसकी आउटलाइन दी गई है. आप पहला सबमिट कर दीजिएगा, इस सेकंड वाला सबमिट ले लेंगे आप. ये कुछ आउटलाइंस बना रहा हूं मैं, इस पर ध्यान देंगे. May also be, it will also, हैज ऊपर बनता है, हैज आल्सो, हुक लगा दो बीन का, क्या हो जाएगा, हैज आल्सो बीन, हैज आल्सो टू बी, it has also been, have also been, had also been, is also, there is also, are also, should also, was also, were also. बना लेंगे also को. United States of America, United States, US, USA, United Kingdom, socio-economic, social and economic, economic and social, if possible, it is possible that it is quite possible, it is not possible, it will be possible, it will not be possible, it would be possible, it would not be possible, it may be possible, it has been possible, as far as possible, so far as possible, as soon as possible, as early as possible, if it possible, if it is possible, to the extent possible, great importance, until and unless, unless and until, ये सारा सेट आपके इसके अंदर दिया हुआ है, आप देख लेंगे, गो थ्रू हो जाएंगे। एक मोटा सा आइडिया मैंने आपको दे दिया है, आप इनकी प्रैक्टिस करेंगे कैसे, सामने वाले पेज पे आउटलाइन की जगह दे रखी है, लिख के पूरी पूरी लाइन का अभ्यास करेंगे, और ये सभी की सभी कंटेंट आपको पीछे आंसर में दिया हुआ है, ठीक है। इसका प्रैक्टिस करना है आपको, वेडनेसडे को नेक्स्ट सेट दूंगा, तब तक आपको इसको कवर करना है। डेली बेसिस पे जो कर रहे हैं वो करना ही है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वो छोड़ दोगे, ये सरप्लस में करना है आपको। इसकी डिक्टेशंस जो मैं एक साथ बोल रहा हूँ अभी, पांचों डिक्टेशन सभी को लिखनी है, एक साथ लिखेंगे, लिखते रहेंगे जब तक का लास्ट चलता जाएगा। रेडी? ये 4 से 5 हज़ार वर्ड होंगे जो आपको हैंड टू हैंड गो थ्रू कर देंगे। Started. There has been some reference to the improvement in our economic situation also. We find that we have made good progress in production. We find that we have made good progress in production. We were faced equally with a difficult situation so far as cloth was concerned. Here was a deficit of food and there was also shortage of cloth. I do remember the scenes that we had to witness in several cities where people had to stand in queues for hours together for 2 meters of very ordinary cloth. But now the situation is quite changed. We have produced much cloth and we are in a position to export cloth. After partition, we were faced with the question of raw material, namely cotton. We had cotton mills, but cotton remained in Pakistan. Even that problem has been solved. We had placed before us target for more production of cotton, and not only has that target been achieved, but it has been achieved in shorter period to the satisfaction of all people in the country. From this survey, sir, you will find that everybody should be convinced that we are making good progress in the realization of the objectives of the 5-year plan. Then there is a reference that in several essential commodities we have got increased production. This cannot be denied. In spite of this increased production, I must admit we have not been able to solve the question of unemployment, but efforts are being made to ease the situation so far as this question is concerned. The main thing to which I would like to refer is that the President was pleased to say and say very plainly that so far as cottage industries were concerned, we have not been able to make good progress. As a matter of fact, very little progress has been made. If in this country we have to solve the question of unemployment, we must take very seriously to the development of cottage industries. That alone will solve this problem of unemployment. We want to increase production, but we want to take to such means for increasing our production as would be man absorbing and not man saving, as have been resorted to by the Western countries. That alone will solve our problem to a very great extent. If we organize our cottage industries, if we take to the spirit of Swadeshi, I have no doubt we will solve the problem of unemployment to a great extent. Then, sir, a reference has been made to certain additional projects which have been included in the 5-year plan. There was a great demand from Maharashtra to increase this project in the 5-year plan. A couple of years ago, there was a conference presided over by my colleague from the district, the present Revenue Minister of Maharashtra. He had presided over it, and there was a unanimous demand supported by practically the entire people from Maharashtra that this project should be included in the 5-year plan. I take this opportunity to congratulate the Government of India and the Government of Maharashtra for having seen to it that this project in Maharashtra is included in the 5-year plan. The President's address makes reference to the improvement of our increased production lead to the question of better transport facilities. The agriculture production is on the increase, but sir, if there is no betterment of our transport facilities, this increased production in agriculture will not benefit the agriculturist. In my part of the country, even now this situation prevails. The production, there is no on the increase, but the agriculturists are suffering on account of inadequate facilities of railway transport. I was glad to find from the President's address that the railways are thinking of opening even new lines very soon. It has also been said that so far as locomotives and rolling stock are concerned, the manufacture of these is going on very satisfactorily, and we have made good progress in this respect during the last few years. Any nation can be proud of this achievement. Then there is a reference to the housing conditions. We can very well remember the scenes that we were required to witness immediately after partitions. Thousands and tens of thousands of our brethren came to this country from Pakistan. it was a very serious question as to how to house them. But the day has come when the question has practically been solved, or it can at least be said that we are near the solution of the question. 72 crores of rupees have been spent during the last few years in constructing houses for the refugees, and in this very city we are witnessing an exhibition where we can see the models of cheap and decent houses. If these cheap houses are constructed for the refugees, it will provide shelter for them at a लो कॉस्ट. 840 वर्डों के साथ में स्पीड है इसके अंदर 108 के आसपास. अब लिखेंगे आगे, इससे कम पे लिखेंगे. रेडी? स्टार्ट. Now I would like to say that with this measure we are now adopting, to my mind, it will not be possible to have this system or any other system functioning effectively. The number of clauses that we have included are so restrictive and rigid that it will not be possible for any system to function. It will be able to function with a lot of difficulties. It will be said afterwards that the industrial sector, particularly the private sector, has not been able to deliver the goods. I would like to warn the government that if anything happens in the future in which industrial production or production in the private sector has not gone up, it would be not because of any lack of efforts on the part of the private sector, but because of the measure that we are now adopting. I have mentioned several times how this particular bill is very restrictive and how it will hamper the normal growth of companies in this country. It is a pity that when we are on the threshold of the 10th five-year plan, such a measure should be passed in this House. I would now like to make a few observations about the speeches of some of the honorable members here. Sri Ashoka Mehta justifies the restrictions on managing agents by saying that managing agents are no longer the main source of finance. He also argues that profits have been high and will continue to remain high, and therefore he would like to see the managing agents being paid on sliding scale. He is in the habit of referring to a number of books and making quotations from a number of them published in America or in other countries, and particularly by some of the professors. I would also like to mention to him that even when companies are floated, it requires a certain amount of confidence amongst the investing public, and it is because a particular firm is managing a particular company that this confidence is created in the investing public. Even there, as the Honorable Finance Minister has said, there is a short of overall tight control. New banks and insurance companies are not floated nowadays. What you have are the few banks which are existing and the few insurance companies that are existing. The other point is that the credit worthiness of the managing agency firm does count to a certain extent in getting credit from the banks and other financial institutions. Yesterday, it was mentioned by my honorable friend that the crux of the problem is the question of payment of remuneration to a particular managing agency system. He said that in this bill, a definite encouragement has been given to the alternative type of management, namely the managing director or the manager, where an individual has been permitted to take 5%, while in the case of the managing agency, it has been permitted to take about 10%. I would like to point out to him that it is not merely the question of remuneration which will decide the alternative type of management. The remuneration is not a very important thing unless and until you allow a certain amount of flexibility for a system to function. It will not be possible to evolve any other system to take the place of the managing agency system. In spite of so many shackles, you may find that those few business house which are carry on the present basis, you may not find many new people coming in field. Several times it has been mentioned in this house why the business community has not prescribed for itself a code of conduct. In this connection, I would like to point out that a degree or diploma is essential for the profession, and in case of violation of the code, sanction should be provided by it to prevent a person from practicing the profession. Today, even Asoka Mehta and Sri C.C. Saha can set up a grocery shop and become businessmen. Nobody lays down any condition for starting business, and nobody can prevent others from continuing it. But I would like to point out that with regard to the code of conduct, there is a certain amount of ethics and there are certain standards and traditions on which business house function. If a particular firm has not got proper way of managing its business, you will find that business house will find it difficult to function, and it would be difficult for it to command the confidence of the business community. It would not be possible for it to function as effectively as firm which has proper ways of managing its business. That is sufficient as a code of conduct. It is not possible to prescribe a certain code of conduct in the manner it has been done for the profession in general. ये 840 वर्ड के साथ बोला गया. इसकी स्पीड थोड़ी एक्स्ट्रा थी उससे लास्ट वाले से, आपकी 115 के आसपास थी, फ्लक्चुएशन 118 थी. 100 से लिखेंगे, 100 से कम पे लिखेंगे, लगभग 100 के आसपास, फिर 90, फिर 80. रेडी, स्टार्ट इट. In conclusion, I would like to say a word in regard to employment, with which I have been dealing so far. According to the figures supplied, the number of displaced persons from Bangladesh employed through employment exchanges is only 37,000. This is very meager compared with their total number, which comes to 32 lakhs according to the official figures. This is with regard to Bangladesh refugees. The number of displaced persons from Pakistan employed through employment exchanges is not very increasing, but still it is 75,000. I would urge upon the Honorable Minister to take this into consideration and see that something is done to find employment of these people. Of course, there is some expenditure incurred on general education and vocational training. But when we look at the number of persons who have been given vocational training, we find that the number already trained and under training is only 17,000. This figure also seems to be very small considering the magnitude of the problem before us. Some programs of general improvement have been undertaken by the government of West Bengal by way of setting up new industries, etc. These programs should be looked into and put into operation with a view to giving more employment to these displaced persons. Within the limited time at my disposal, I shall limit my remarks to refugees from Bangladesh. The first thing which strikes one as one looks at the various brochures and publications that have been given to us is the amount of contradiction one has to battle against. The first contradiction is in regard to the number of persons government think they have rehabilitated in West Bengal. Granting that it is difficult to make a final assessment of the number of refugees who have come from Bangladesh, it is still true to say that at least there should be some sort of parity between what the Union Ministry says and what the West Bengal Rehabilitation Ministry says. Only a few days ago, the West Bengal Ministry of Rehabilitation said that there are 22 lakhs of refugees who have to be rehabilitated, but the central government's refugees are 31 lakhs. Unless the government know the number of people they have to budget for, it is rather bewildering to know how they mean to plan in bringing about their rehabilitation. As a matter of fact, many other sources believe that the figure is far higher. But in any case, there should be some parity and some idea as to the extent of the rehabilitation problem which still remains before the people of West Bengal. The other contradiction is this. On the one hand, Srimati Renuka Ray says that in the near future they will be making a successful completion of the work of economic rehabilitation of refugees in that state. But only last year, Sri A.P. Jain said that as yet the problem of the displaced persons from Bangladesh was a matter which was giving some concern. I really do not understand why, in spite of Sri A.P. Jain recognizing that the problem is still quite serious, Srimati Renuka Ray should have made such a statement. Yet, when we heard the Honorable Finance Minister, we find that there has been a big shortfall in rehabilitation budget. I think that if the fact-finding committee's report had been published, the assessment that we have rehabilitated about 50% of the people Bangladesh who came over a displaced persons would have become quite clear in regard to its incorrectness. As a matter of fact, When we went round the camps and colonies in West Bengal, we found that as yet not more than 15% of the people have been rehabilitated, in the sense that they are able to eke out their subsistence on the poorest levels. It is not more than 15%. And I think the figures of the fact-finding committee are still lower. I think this is something that we have to take very seriously and put our minds to, and apply all the resources that we have to find out how we will be able to tackle this problem of rehabilitation. Now, coming to the question of relief, I feel that until we are able to give really proper rehabilitation, we cannot withdraw relief. It is no use arguing whether relief leads to lethargy and moral slackness unless our rehabilitation policies are fruitful. Have we any right to starve the people death? As a matter of fact, Sri A.P. Jain may know that in West Bengal, the incidence of tuberculosis amongst the refugee population is very high. Only a small percentage of them is catered for by the medical relief given by the Directorate of Rehabilitation. If I am to tell you the tragic fate of the refugees in West Bengal, I would refer you to a report which appeared in February 2004. 90 की स्पीड में लिखेंगे, ये 100 पे था. रेडी, स्टार्ट. Sir, the budget has been variously described and criticized as one that increases the burden of the common man, one which gives concessions to the rich and encourages foreign investments. I agree, sir, that it is all this and much more, but it certainly is not a highwayman's budget. To my mind, sir, the budget is sincere, conscientious, and at the same time, it is a bold effort on the part of the finance minister, who is charged with heavy responsibility of finding resources for the 10th five-year plan. This plan, to my mind, sir, is not at all ambitious. In view of our needs, it may be looked upon as a rather heavy demand, but looking to our needs, it is not very ambitious. Sir, the fact that even the considerations of the coming general elections could not deflect the finance minister from the course which seemed to him necessary and proper should earn him the appreciation of every right-thinking man. The common man's interest, as I said, is nearer to our hearts than perhaps some others can claim, or at least it is equally nearer to us. And yet, there come times in a nation's history when it becomes necessary for the people to postpone the fruits of necessary of the people to postpone the fruits of their labor and enterprise to secure the future. Here also, sir, opinions may differ according to the Communist Party. Such a time came during the last Great War when they were exhorting people, the common people, to contribute their full might to the war effort. According to us, however, sir, we are passing through such a time at the present moment, and I have no doubt that the common people appreciate this position and will willingly tighten their belts, contribute their full might, and will surely return the Congress to power. Having full confidence in the future and looking to a future where their posterity will be assured of a far better social and economic order, who, sir, does not sympathize with the difficulties of the common man. As a matter of fact, most of us come from that class, and I am sure the finance minister would have liked to do away with some of the levies. None would have been happier if he could have done without these new levies, but there are, sir, certain very imperative limitations. We are passing through a critical period. Sir, it may not be necessary to continue these levies for a long time. Rather, I am inclined to think that before long it may be possible to give up some of them at least. I have very valid reasons to think so. Our public undertakings are coming to their own, and some of our important irrigation and power projects have just been completed. Some others are nearing completion, and in due course, I think in the very near future, they must yield returns. This will go a long way to lighten the burden of the common man. We might, sir, also resort to some other ways. I suggest that we might take to public trading in some specific items of export and import. That would also certainly go a long way and help us. The private corporate sector has been steadily growing and has been deploying and developing capacity. It is sure to benefit from all these present concessions and develop greater capacity. This sector must come forward to meet new demands for taxation in the future. I agree that so far as indirect taxation is concerned, it has reached the saturation point, but the corporate sector, growing as it is in strength, in vitality, and in capacity, will not, I am sure, shirk its responsibility to contribute to the common fund. I wish, sir, the committee which had been appointed to go into where the additional national income had gone, had entered upon its labors a bit earlier and had made its findings available to us. I do not want to state its findings, but I have a feeling that the committee, when it concludes its labors, will come to the conclusion that a major portion of this additional national income has gone into the pockets of a comparatively small number of men, small number of individuals, and it is they who must in future contribute their share to the country's taxation needs, because the profits they have earned are not all due to their own efforts and enterprise only. To a very large measure, they are the result of the economic policies of the government and due to certain other circumstances to which they did not contribute anything. Therefore, there is ample justification for the two taxes, the capital gains tax and the excess profits tax. I need not go in detail into all the reasons that my honorable friend has explained earlier so lucidly, but I must say that I entirely agree with them all. Having said this, I would like to say a few words about allocations which have been made to the various ministries in the budget. 90 की स्पीड है, 80 पे लिखेंगे लास्ट. रेडी? Started. In discussing the demands for grants of the finance ministry, we have got to see to what extent the administration of this particular ministry has led to the development of our national wealth and the securing of the welfare which our state claims to have in view. Madam, we must try to analyze very carefully the working of this particular ministry, because it is not merely a development of the government, so to say, but it is the nerve center of the administration of the country. I would like first to refer to the role of foreign capital, because in determining the manner in which the permission of capital issues has been granted by the particular administration, we should keep in our mind to what extent the interests of our mind, to what extent the interests of our nation have been served. I fully endorse the statement which the previous speaker has made so far as repatriation of the investments made by foreigners and of profits are concerned. We have dealt with this topic quite a number of times, and I do not want to reiterate anything apart from only supporting what the honorable members who just now spoke said. I would now like to deal with the investments of foreigners in India. Madam, the government of our country accepted the proposition that in allowing foreign investment, it should come in only in such industry and such form of production wherein our national investors will now come forward and in which technical skill is wanted. There is also one other factor which the industrial policy of our government of 1948 as adumbrated further in 1949 by the Prime Minister laid down. It specifically said that the control and ownership of such concerns should, as far as possible, be in the hands of Indian nationals and the technical know-how of our country should be developed. I would like to emphasize the figures that have been put forward for the last few years from 1997 till the end of 2012 or the early part of 2012. It has been reported that rupees 19,000 crores of foreign capital have been allowed to be invested in our country. Of that, particularly more than rupees 6,000 crore have been allowed to be invested in managing agency and trading enterprises in our country. So far as the government policy is concerned, we find that a sum of rupees 4 crores has been allowed to be invested this year. We do not know how it is to be used up. We have been told that during the period 2008-13, nearly rupees 35 crores have been allowed to be invested in textile machinery and generally in the textile industry. We have seen to what extent cotton and jute have been dominated by the play the role as against the demand for them. We know further what the government is doing in regard to these industries and how the Indian counterpart in these industries are behaving. Then why this further penetration of foreign capital? Even in regard to the expansion scheme, we find that paints, soaps, electric fans and machine tools are some of the industries where the government has allowed foreign investment to establish or expand their factories. It will adversely compete with the production of the country when the indigenous producers do not find any market in this sphere. Therefore, we have got to see to what extent the capital issue has been regulated by this government and particularly by the finance department so that the national well-being of the country could be guaranteed. Then we have got to look into the fact as to how far the new industries are allowed to function. So far as the oil refineries are concerned, some of them have been established and some more are going to be established very soon. In the control of the administration, the Indians have no share. There are only preference shareholders and they have no voice in the management. So far as the administrative aspect in this industry is concerned, the most important part of it is the technical know-how. They do not guarantee that they will train the Indians. That means they say even after 20 years, we will have to face the problem of the know-how in respect of the oil refineries. I do not know why the government are showing softness to foreigners in this matter. Then we have another investment in collaboration with the Indian chemical industries for the manufacture of civil explosive. Here, as Indian capital, the majority of the shares will remain with the Indian chemical industries. Nobody else has been allowed to make any investment. It would have been better if other companies and private individuals had been given an opportunity to purchase the shares. 80 की स्पीड है, आप टाइप करना चाहो टाइप कर सकते हो, कोई अच्छी लिखी हो तो। टाइप करने के लिए मैं बताता हूँ कौन कौन से नंबर पर आपको मिल जाएगा। और इसके अलावा आप जिसके जो कोई लिखे वो सीन लिखना चाहते हो तो डिक्टेशन रूम से लिखेंगे सीन।